episode of The Pole Position right here on Racing News Now. The Pole Position where you always start on the front row. I'm your host, Garth Allen. Hello and welcome. I am so excited to bring this show to you and to get Pole Position off and running. We're going to do a lot of great things here on RNN. I'm excited. I hope you're excited too. First off, I want to start and just tell you a little bit about what Pole Position is here. Pole Position is going to be your weekly recap of all things motorsports. We're going to, for example, this weekend we are recapping the ARCA race from Saturday night, the Lucas Oil 200. We are recapping Daytona 500 qualifying, and we are recapping the Advanced Auto Parts Clash, all from Daytona International Speedway. That will be the general rule of thumb for this show. We're also going to try to get interviews with race winners on every week. This show is no exception. We have Saturday night's ARCA race winner Michael Self coming up here a little bit later in the show. We talked to him last night. You'll get to see the full interview in its entirety coming up here in just a little bit on the Pole Position. I'm excited about that. So let's just go ahead and get right into things here, and we'll start off, we'll just go in chronological order here. We'll start off with the ARCA Racing Series presented by Menards, the Lucas Oil 200 from Saturday night. Natalie Decker starts on the pole in her first race at Daytona. This young girl is going places. This girl is fast. Remember that name because she is going places. She is going to be a star very, very soon. Race didn't quite go as I'm sure she would have wanted, though. Went through a lot of adversity. Didn't get quite the bad finish that all the adversity might have made you think she was going to. We'll get to that in a moment when we get to the results. It was a crazy finish. Lots of wrecks. Lots of ARCA overtime attempts at a finish. Finally got a finish with Michael Self coming out on top in this one. His second career ARCA Racing Series victory. His first coming in the final race of the 2017 season in Kansas. So he's kind of on a hot streak right now, although he's got some big time gaps between wins. I mean, we're talking 4-month off season, and then we've got now 2 months until the next race at Fairground Speedway in Nashville on April 7th. Willie Mullins, in his only race scheduled thus far this season, comes home in second following Michael Self to the line. Sheldon Creed, who got caught up in one of those calamities that caused an ARCA overtime coming to the end, he was a contender for most of the night for that win. Did get caught up in that calamity. The one he was caught up in actually gave Michael Self the lead. And then Sheldon Creed ends up making his way back up to the third position. Michael Self's teammate Tom Hessert comes home in fourth, and Natalie Decker rebounds from all of her adversity on the night to finish a strong fifth. The rest of your top 10, Max Tolman, Noah Gragson, Leilani Munter, Andrew Belmont, and Riley Herbst. We'll go ahead and run down the rest of the finishing order for you right here, probably somewhere here on the right side of the screen. Again, first episode, just trying to figure out all the details here. I am planning on it being over here. If it's not, don't get mad at me. So, that was the finishing order for the Lucas Oil 200 driven by General Tire from Saturday night at Daytona International Speedway. Had a chance to sit down with Michael Self and chat about his win last night. And let's go to that interview and see it in its entirety right now. All right, and now let's welcome in Saturday night's winner of the ARCA Racing Series presented by Menards race at Daytona, Michael Self. Michael, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. Feeling pretty good and pretty positive today overall. It's been a fun day and exciting one. Lots of messages.
Yeah, I can imagine
coming in. So it's been fun.
Right. So first off, congratulations on your second career win in ARCA.
Thank you.
You're now on a 2-race win streak, even if they were about 4 months apart. So talk us through your race. You kind of snuck up on us there. You weren't really up front there until the end, but I mean that's when it counts.
Well, we had a strategy. We started out 13th, and we got up into the top 10 pretty quickly there until the first pit stop. And actually, after our first pit stop, which my guys nailed, we I think I came out of that one third. And we ran third there for a little while. Kind of had a short green flag run there, and Kevin Reed, my crew chief, made the call to bring us down pit road for the second time. I think this was just before the halfway point to take fuel again. Unfortunately, just before that caution had come out, we'd ended up the left rear brake rotor on our car had sheared off, and I had felt myself run over something, but I wasn't sure what it was. All I knew is I had a soft pedal, which is pretty common at a place like Daytona or Talladega. You'll get some brake fade there. And I didn't anticipate how bad it was going to be, so I came to pit road and completely blew my pit box. I mean, totally botched it, and I felt terrible. I felt so bad for my guys. I thought I blew the race for us at that point because we were putting ourselves in position where we had pit earlier than some of the leaders, and thought we were going to come out in a position to lead once everyone had made their second stop. And unfortunately, I put us basically all the way to the tail end, locked up the tires, had to come in and change the front tires again. And at that point, we did. We went all the way to the back. And at a place like Daytona in the ARCA race, that's something that's really hard to overcome. So I thought my race was done at that point. But we just persevered. I think just stayed really smart, had a couple really strong restarts with the help of my spotter, Mike Herman Jr., and got some really good jumps where we were able to pass cars in clumps and make up some good ground. And then when we got to that 10 to go mark, we were in a good position. I think we were right around the top 10. And my teammate Tom Hessert and I tried to make some things work. We tried to make a third groove work with the two of us, and weren't able to. And there was a point where I think I fell out of the top 10 with probably 5 or 6 to go. And I was like, man, unfortunately, I blew that pit stop. We would have been right up there with the front guys, and felt bad about it. But all in all, I thought we were going to bring home a clean car. And then all the carnage started happening there on the back straightaway with, I guess, 3 or 4 to go whenever that big wreck was there, and made it through that one somehow. And then from that point on, I think it was just making it through those 2 big wrecks, and kind of just ended up in a position where I couldn't really believe it. We were sitting there as a leader, and I was like, man, I talk about things happening for a reason. I don't know if that brake issue had never happened, if I had never blown that pit stop, we may not have been in that position. We may have easily been in one of those wrecks right there or something else. And it was kind of ironic because the guys were saying, man, I don't know how you avoided those wrecks. And I said, well, I didn't have a brake pedal. I didn't have a choice. I just had to stay on the gas. I mean, I wasn't going to be able to slow down. So you never know. It's kind of interesting how I guess the strategy of it all worked out throughout the night.
Well, you mentioned the carnage there at the end, and I want to talk specifically about that wreck in 3 and 4 that took out the top 4. I believe you were 5th at the time, right behind all of that, and then the top 4 going to 3 and 4, coming toward what was supposed to be the checkered flag, and all 4 of them wadded up, and you come through it unscathed in the lead. Talk us through what you were thinking going through 3 and 4 there, coming to what was supposed to be the checkered flag.
I was going to be coming down the back stretch there. I was going to be happy with the top 5. The front 4, they were too wide and they were locked on each other, so they were kind of taking off. And I was holding about 2 car lengths back, but I wasn't able to close to help one of those lines. But I knew the guys behind me were about 15 out back, so there was no pressure there. I just happened to get into 3 and was, again, focused on getting to the bumper of one of those 2 lines, so I may be able to gain a position or 2. But I was going to be happy with the top 5 at that point. Again, as soon as I saw them start turning each other, I just held the line. And one thing they'll teach you about running super speedways is when they start wrecking, just aim straight for it, because of those speeds, the chances that it's going to clear out by the time you get there are pretty high. And that's exactly what happened in that scenario. So I think we missed the 28 car by just a couple of feet there, and came out of 4 in the lead. And at first, it took a second for them to get the yellow out. And I was like, this is unbelievable. I mean, we're going to come cleanly to the finish, kind of a heroic coming through the smoke kind of deal here. And then they threw that that yellow, and that was the last thing that I wanted to see at that point. I was hoping we'd just race it to the line, but knew we had a strong car, and we could probably get another strong restart. And that's exactly what we had to go and do. It just took 35 minutes or 40 minutes of us sitting through a red flag until we got the chance to do it.
So I got to ask you here. I'm sure you've been asked this a lot over the past day or so, but I think it's a good question to ask here after you've won your first race at Daytona. How does it feel to win at what is arguably one of the most famous racetracks in all of racing?
Really, really special, especially this one because I've got a few other experiences at Daytona. I ran the ARCA race there last year. It didn't go very well. We ended up wrecking out of that one. And then years ago in 2013, I ran the UNOH Battle at the Beach there in the NASCAR K&N series. And
Okay.
if anyone ever saw that race or remembers that race, it was kind of another one where I came from the back to the front. I think I led the last 25 laps or so, had about a 1 second lead coming to the white flag, and the caution came out just before I got to the line. We ended up going green white checker there, and I ended up getting wrecked in that scenario. And that was a big race. I mean, at the time, it was one of those few Canaan races that was televised live. It was an East and West combo race, and that was probably going to be the biggest win of my career at that point. So when I was sitting there on the back straightaway during that red flag, I was looking at the exact spot where that makeshift racetrack was that year, and I was thinking, I remember this so vividly. I remember the win that was taken away there, and so what's more than special at winning at Daytona is for me to come back to a track where I feel like I got one robbed from me years ago, and to be able to come and do it on a little bit of a bigger stage, and that was kind of a cool feeling. So putting that to the side, to win at Daytona is extremely special. And on top of all that, to win with Sinclair Oil on the car and on the Venturini Motorsports car to start the win off, to start the season off with a win for Venturini Motorsports, and that 15 car is a really, really big deal for them, going for an owner's championship in that car this year. For Sinclair Oil to get that win on that level, it's as they me and giving me a chance to come things about it that make it special beyond the fact that it was at Daytona. So really, just a lot of aspects that make it a really special victory for me, and really something I'm really proud of.
So we talked about this a little bit before we started recording here, but when football players win the Super Bowl, they always say they're going to Disney World. What'd you do after you won ARCA's really the equivalent of the Super
We did
Bowl?
not go to Disney World. My wife and I and our friends, we went to Universal Studios. We went to Harry Potter World.
Oh, there you go.
We planned that trip a couple weeks ago, so we said no matter what had happened last night, we were coming down here today and spent the day down there. And I think we're all back in the hotel room. We're all back at the hotel now. Everyone's completely winded. I'm wore out. I barely got any sleep last night, so hoping we can call it a night pretty early here and kind of settle in. And I've got to go out to California for some work this week, and just kind of move on and move forward, but enjoy the moment while it's here. But I'm glad I got to celebrate with some people that are really special to me today.
Well, I think you made the right call there because I think I would rather go to Harry Potter World than Disney World myself.
Pretty cool. I would highly recommend it to people. It's very, very well done. I was super impressed. Had a lot of fun there today.
Yeah, that's been on my list for a while. I haven't gotten down there yet, but I need to.
Definitely worth your time. For everyone out there, it's definitely worth your time to come and check it out if you were a fan of the series like I am. Of course, I still my wife jokes with me and says basically every weekend I'll find the Harry Potter series or whatever it is on ABC Family, and I'll watch the whole marathon. So I've probably seen it 8 or 9 times now. But that's it's fun to come and see it, to celebrate in person in some warm weather.
Yeah. Now, lastly, here before we let you go, so you're only scheduled for 10 races this season in ARCA. What are those races, just so folks know when they can see you on the track?
So we had Daytona, which obviously was last night. I'll be running the next race on the calendar, which is Nashville. That's I believe that's coming up early April 7th. And then after that, I will skip the third race of the year, which is Salem. And then I will go to the next two, which are Talladega and Charlotte. And then after that, throughout the summer months, we'll go to, let's see. After Charlotte, we'll go to Michigan. We'll go to Chicagoland. We'll go to, let's see, Lucas Oil Raceway Park. We'll go to Salem towards the end of the year, Kansas at the end of the year, and I think that about covers all of them. Iowa. We'll go to Iowa there in the middle of the summer as well.
Does winning at Daytona make you possibly reconsider running the full season, maybe for the championship?
I mean, that's unfortunately something that's out of my choice. If we can get our guys on board to do it, Sinclair has been an absolutely awesome partner, and this has been something that's been a slow build for them, but a win is never going to hurt your chances of doing some more racing. So I don't know what the possibilities are going forward. I can tell you right now, over the next month, I'm going to enjoy leading the points in the ARCA Racing Series as long as I can, and take advantage of that. And we'll go to Nashville and just approach it like I do any other race, whether I was running for a championship or not. We just go out and try and win. And I think if we play things right, there's always going to be a chance that more races may get added to the schedule. And if not, that's okay. I'm having a lot of fun with what I've got.
Well, yeah, you got almost 2 months here where you can lead the championship till you get to Nashville. And then all you got to do is win there and keep leading the points. So easier said than done, right?
Yeah, maybe I can make some deals with people that as long as I'm leading the points, I get to keep driving. But we'll see if I can talk Venturini crew into that.
Right. All right. Well, Michael, again, thank you for joining us tonight. It has been a pleasure talking to you, and good luck for the rest of the season.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Michael Self, winner of Saturday night's Lucas Oil 200 from Daytona. All right. A big thanks to Michael Self for sitting down and chatting with us here at RNN. It is much appreciated. Now, let's go ahead and shift gears to the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. They were on track yesterday from Daytona International Speedway. First up was Daytona 500 pole qualifying. And all of you naysayers that said Alex Bowman wasn't going to do much in the 88 car, I think he's starting to prove you wrong. Grabs the pole for the Daytona 500, blisteringly fast lap, 46.002 is the pole time for Alex Bowman. A ridiculously fast lap, 196 miles an hour. Crazy, crazy fast. Alex Bowman on the pole for the Daytona 500. Not a surprise, though. It's the 88 car. The 88 car is always good at Daytona. Yes, I know Dale Earnhardt Jr. was the master of Daytona and Talladega. There is no disputing that. But that 88 car, they had to have picked up something off of him, and it's very obvious that they did. Greg Ives is a great crew chief. Alex Bowman is a great driver. That car is going to do some great things this year. Alex Bowman is going to do some great things this year. Mark my words. We'll talk more about that on Wednesday on RNN Talks when we go through predictions for this season. So you want to check out RNN Talks on Wednesday for that. The only other position locked in off of qualifying, Daytona 500 qualifying, a little different. If you're not aware of the format, the front row is the only thing set after Daytona 500 qualifying. The rest of it just determines the starting lineup for the dual races on Thursday. What would be the inside row is your starting lineup for the first duel, and what would be the outside row is the starting lineup for your second duel. So let's go ahead and run through your starting lineups for the duels on Thursday. It'll be Thursday night under the lights, so it'll be a really great night of racing. Alex Bowman obviously starting on the pole for duel number 1. Jimmy Johnson, his teammate, to his outside. And a Hendrick Motorsports 1-2-3 in the first duel with William Byron, the rookie, starting in third in that Exalta car that looks eerily similar to Jeff Gordon's paint scheme. Daniel Suarez will start in fourth with Ricky Stenhouse, the new quasi-king of the restrictor plate tracks, starting in the fifth position. Keep an eye on him. We saw last season he can do some great things on restrictor plate tracks after winning both the first Talladega race and the July Daytona race last year. Watch out for him. He could be strong this speed. Well, not could be strong, will be strong this speed weeks. I can almost guarantee that. Joey Logano will start in sixth for duel number 1. Eric Almirola in his new ride in the 10 car for Stewart Haas Racing starts in seventh. Ryan Blaney in his new ride at Team Penske in that bright neon yellow number 12 car with Menard's sponsorship. He'll start in eighth. You can't miss that car. That is so bright and yellow. It is very hard to miss it. Kurt Busch will start in 10th with Brad Keselowski starting in the 10th position. We'll talk more about Brad Keselowski coming up here in a little bit. This won't be the last time we mention the name Brad K. Rest of the starting lineup for duel number 1, pending everyone gets through inspection. New inspection procedures this year, so it's definitely not a given. Ryan Newman in 11th, Jamie McMurray, Bubba Wallace, Ty Dillon, Chris Buescher, Brendan Gaughan, Justin Marks, Jeffrey Earnhardt, David Gilliland, and Gray Gaulding in BK Racing's only entry in the 23 car. All right, duel number 2 lineup. Well, we had a Hendrick Motorsports 1-2-3 starting the first duel. We have a Joe Gibbs Racing 1-2-3 starting the second duel. Denny Hamlin obviously on the pole for the second duel as he starts outside pole. Kyle Busch and Eric Jones second and third. Kevin Harvick will start fourth, and Chase Elliott will start in the fifth position, now in the 9 car at Hendrick Motorsports. His Mountain Dew car looks really good. Paul Menard will start from the 6th position in his Wood Brothers number 21 car. New look for Paul Menard. Good looking car. Hopefully that is a good fit for Mr. Menard. Austin Dillon will start in the 7th position. Clint Boyer in 8th. Casey Kane in his new ride for Levine Family Racing. Pretty good start here in the duel, starting in 9th with Trevor Bayne rounding out the top 10. Rest of your starting lineup for duel number 2, Kyle Larson, Michael McDowell, Martin Truex Jr., Danica Patrick, AJ Allmendinger. Pump the brakes here. Swivel back to Danica Patrick here. Want to mention that real quick. Obviously, her final NASCAR race will be the Daytona 500. She showed a lot of speed in practice in that Premium Motorsports number 7 car. More speed than, I will be honest, more speed than I expected to see out of her. Not the greatest qualifying effort. We'll see what she can do in the duels and in the 500. I'm actually kind of excited to see what she can do because she showed, like I said, more speed than I expected her to have in practice. So I'm interested to see what she is actually going to do in race conditions. It'll be interesting to see. But moving along, AJ Allmendinger starts behind her in 15th, Matt DiBenedetto 16th, DJ Kennington, the Canadian, in 17th, 66-year-old Mark Thompson driving for MBM Motorsports. He will start in 18th, Corey LaJoie in 19th, and starting 20th will be David Reagan for Front Row Motorsports. So that is your starting lineups for the duels on Thursday. We'll talk a little bit more about them on Wednesday on RNN Talks, as that'll only be a day ahead of the duels as we start to get really prepared and ramped up and entrenched in Speed Weeks. So we've got 1 weekend of Speed Weeks done. Now we've got 1 more weekend on tap. But we still have 1 race to talk about from this weekend in Speed Weeks, and that is the Advanced Auto Parts Clash that came up following Daytona 500 pole qualifying. Starting lineup was a random draw, so I'm not really going to talk about that too much. Austin Dillon did start on the pole with Denny Hamlin on the outside pole, ironically starting second in both the 500 and the Clash. The second place starting position had nothing to do with speed in the Clash, though. It was just crew chiefs doing a random draw, and this is what they came up with for starting lineup. So starting lineup really meant nothing in this race, as evidenced by your winner, Brad Keselowski. Started last in 17th, comes home with the win. A very strong showing for Team Penske in this race. I think that might be an omen for what is coming up in Speed Weeks. Those Team Penske Fords were very, very fast today, and they've been fast all through Speed Weeks. I would not be surprised if this isn't the last time we see a Team Penske car in victory lane this week. They were 1-2-3 coming to the white flag. Ryan Blaney made a little bit of I don't want to call it a bad move, but I wasn't super impressed by it. I want to say it was his inexperience that cost him the win in this, because I think Blaney was second, coming to the white flag with Logano behind him, Keselowski in the lead. I think, had Blaney timed his move right, I think Blaney could have won the race. I don't think that Blaney exactly timed his move right, and I think that cost him a win in this race. Still came home in 4th, so still respectable finish, but in a non-points exhibition race, you don't remember who finished second, or definitely who finished 4th. You remember who won, Brad Keselowski. And they made that mention on the TV broadcast. The mention of Darrell Waltrip has finished second once, and Jeff Gordon, I think it was twice, has finished second. Nobody remembers that. You just remember the winners. Which, you know what, maybe a good thing, maybe a bad thing. I don't know. But that's the fact. In an exhibition race like that, you definitely do not remember who finishes second, which in fact was Joey Logano after Blaney made that move and it didn't exactly work. I was pretty impressed with the racing today, though. I'm interested to see how that is going to work in the 500 because they are changing the gearing just a little bit. They were pulling a little too fast of speeds than what they were comfortable with, so they changed the gearing up a little bit. They didn't change it for the Clash because they made this change, I believe it was Saturday, might have been Friday, but it was too close up to the Clash. They didn't want to change things after they'd already done all their practices and everything and then not know what to expect. So didn't change it for the Clash, so the racing could be a little bit different in the 500. I'm not sure exactly what to expect given that there are going to be changes like that. So we'll just have to wait and see how that gear change affects the Daytona 500 and how much different the racing is from what it was in the Clash. Excuse me. Big crash on the last lap, though. Kyle Larson got a little crazy with his bump drafting. I can't blame him. It's the last lap in an exhibition race. As we've already talked about, you don't remember who finishes second, so you got to go for that win. It's one of those races that really holds the moniker checkers or wreckers. You either take the checkered flag or you go home on a wrecker. And you know what? Kyle Larson went home on a wrecker, but he was trying to take those checkers, and that was the point. So let's go through the rest of the results here before we wrap up. As we said, Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano, your top two. Kurt Busch came home in third after that wild crash on the backstretch. Ryan Blaney snuck back through to finish in fourth. Austin Dillon rounded out the top five. He has been fast all speed weeks so far as well. I would watch out for him in the 500 and the duels. Denny Hamlin came home in sixth. Kyle Busch seventh. Eric Jones eighth. Kevin Harvick ninth. And Kyle Larson in 10th. We'll run down the rest of the finishing order for you since there's only 17. Ryan Newman, Jimmy Johnson, Chase Elliott, Martin Truex, Casey Kane, Ricky Stenhouse, and Jamie McMurray. Most of those, in fact, all of those, caught up in that last lap crash, except for Jamie McMurray, who had a little bit of an incident earlier on in the race. He made it 43 laps is the official total for him. So it's about halfway, a little past halfway that he made it before he had a spin off of turn 4. So that was the Advanced Auto Parts Clash. Thank you for joining us on this first episode of the pole position of hopefully many more. We will see you on Wednesday for RNN Talks when we make predictions on the upcoming 2018 season, predictions for the Daytona 500, and maybe a little bit more. So you want to tune in for that. At that, this has been the pole position where you always start on the front row. I'm Garth Allen for Racing News Now.